We have certain roles here. Let's look at this addict. The addict and the codependent have a conflictual relationship. So here are some of the kinds of addictions. The addict can be addicted to alcohol or drugs, or they can be a sexaholic, a workaholic, a rageaholic, into control, obsessive control. They can have an eating disorder. You ever see any of those? Yeah. They can gamble. They can shop. They can do anything they want. And the basis of that addiction is that the person is covering their anxiety and handling their anxiety through their addiction. It's a mood-altering activity that takes away the pain. And as long as they're raging or blaming somebody else, they don't have to work on their own stuff. Okay, you got a comment here?
What happens in a situation like that when the codependent stops?
Stops being codependent?
Yes.
Well, then you've got only one person pulling on the tug-of-war rope, and this individual has to go someplace else. All right? And in a typical case, if mother stopped being codependent, what I would expect in the system would be somebody else take up the codependent role for the system to maintain its balance and equilibrium. That's what I would expect. But here's the key. When you start working with a system, when somebody changes and somebody changes the game, that throws the system out of balance and other people have to react, like I told you. When you as a parent stop being rescuer, codependent with your children, when you stop that, that changes the environment. And all of a sudden, they're having to be responsible for their own money, their own time management, their own clothing, their own bedroom. And as you start that, they've got to adapt or die, right? Because the clothes are gone. Because you take the clothes, you take the bed, you take whatever is out of order. So the co-addict, then when we change the behavior with one person, then that upsets the whole balance of the system. Okay, these are the roles that this addict can play. He can be the offender, he can be the victim, and we'll talk about the drama triangle next week, or he can be a rebel, he can be a scapegoat. My father was all of those, and he switched back and forth all the time. My mother, on the other hand, what was she into? She was into worry, her codependency, she was into sadness, she was never into religion, but they could be. And the roles of the mother or the codependent would be to enable, to be a martyr, to be a mediator, to be a super spouse, to be a saint. These are roles that you play. The thing about this is that these roles become ingrained in you, and they get ingrained in the children. And then the children carry these roles that they learned in the dysfunctional system into their own family, to create a new nuclear family with a spouse, and they raise children. And they carry this dysfunction, these roles with them. Now in family systems, Bowen says that the most important factor is the sibling position, is the position of the child and the role that they have assumed. Let's look at some of the roles. There's something like 100, 150 of these roles, all right? Okay, number one, you can be a hero. You can be the hero of the family. You get a messed up parent and a messed up family. To give the family dignity, somebody can be the hero, the superachiever, the valedictorian. Sometimes these kids feel such pressure to succeed. It was like a story that I heard. The guy called me and said, my son is the valedictorian. He was the class president. He was that in high school, and he was that in college. Everything. And now he's graduating from school, and he called me up, and guess what he said? He's committing suicide. Nobody has given that kid permission to be normal, not to have to succeed and be first on everything. No one's given him permission to be normal. And the kid is tired of it. He's had it. He's on stage all the time. He's got to be a super achiever all the time. And your kids can pick that up if you lay that on them. Is this possible? You are so invested in your own image as a parent or a person that you're going to require that that child perform at superhuman levels in order to give you the satisfaction that you need in that system. And so you're living through that kid and you're pushing that kid. I've talked to parents who are upset with their kids that aren't learning to read because they think that if those kids are super kids and super smart, then they're super what? They're super parents, and they're invested in their image, and they're ruining those kids, and they're sitting on those kids, and those kids can turn around and rebel. But some kids take the role of hero. That's a hard role. Sometimes if the role of hero is there, and somebody's already got the role of hero, and somebody's already got the role of good student, and somebody's already got the role of athlete, and the next kid comes along, guess which role he takes? Rebel. That was our case. You just described our family. Okay, the fourth one was the rebel. So these kids can become the little parent, and some of these kids that are 5 years old are acting like a little grandpa. All right, you ever seen a kid like that? Okay, they can be the victim, they can be ill, they can be dad's little buddy, and this is the role they get into. Now the kid gets his strokes. The system strokes this kid and rewards this kid for these crazy roles. All right, and this is the family counselor. That was me. And then the winner, the genius, the kid that's real smart. The kid falls into these roles, and that's how they get their identity in the dysfunctional system. Now, think for a minute about your families. Are any of your kids the good one? Are any of your kids the shy one? Are any of your kids the good student, the saint, the one that's always good? Okay, so we've got mom's scapegoat, the underachiever. Do underachievers need special help? Now, when mom and dad are having problems in their marriage, could you believe that a child could volunteer to be the scapegoat? Could you believe that at some level a kid would know enough in order to bring mom and dad together? That the child would run away from home? Or the child would get into drugs? And what would happen then? Mom and dad are fighting. Now the kid's into drugs. What happens to that relationship? Boom. Triangulating. Okay, that could be triangulating. That child now is being picked up on the third leg of that triangle to stabilize the dysfunctional relationship in this marital dyad here. So the child now is being picked up to stabilize that bad marriage. Okay, underachiever, a designated patient, and people come in for therapy, and they say, hey, fix little Johnny here. He's having all kinds of trouble at school. He's doing this, he's doing that. He's running around with these people, and whatever he's doing. This is terrible. And guess what the therapist is thinking? Why is this kid doing this? And the therapist wants to talk about the marriage, and so they say, we'll go to another therapist. Right? Does that happen? You bet. The identified patient is the boy. They bring the kid in and they say, fix this kid. And the kid is the symptom bearer of the dysfunctional system. And he's coming in with problems to keep the thing together. So that a lot of that energy no longer has to be directed at mom and dad and their fighting, it's directed toward the kid. So the therapist, not knowing any better, he fixes the kid. And when he fixes the kid, what happens to the marriage? It gets worse again. So Herkimer runs away again. Okay, can you see how this can be madness? Do you think anybody's doing this at a conscious level? No, but it's working. Okay, so we have the addict. One of these roles can be another addict. My son volunteered to be an addict. Or you can be a surrogate spouse. I was a surrogate spouse with my mother, counselor. And then the caretaker, someone that's always taking care. My mother was a caretaker in her home. She took care of the 5 little kids, the 3 boys and the 2 girls, I guess it was. One of them was a crippled boy. Here's the sunshine. I can remember my dad picking my little sister up and putting her in a high chair and saying, here's Daddy's sunshine. And he's just picking that up from where he came from. The lost child. We can have the rebel. We can have the perfect kid. We can have the saint. We can have the pretty child. We can have mom's enabler. We can have the heroine. We can have the confidant, the religious one, the rascal, the clown, the cute one, the sick one, the problem child. We can have the overachiever, the athlete, the peacemaker. That's kind of a counselor deal. The family referee who's responsible to keep things going and keep everybody happy, who's always the go-between. The offender, the mascot, and the loser. You'll never learn anything. You're a lost cause. You're just like your mother. She hadn't got any sense, and you'll never learn this calculus, and we'll just give up on you.